Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live Q&A. Today is the 10th of May of year 2023. Welcome. I'm hoping everyone has had a fantastic start to the 5th month of the year, May. And it's spring as well here in the northern hemisphere in United States. So we are enjoying spring weather, or starting what they say spring in Texas especially is April showers bring May flowers. So we are having lots of thunderstorms and showers since April. With that, let me get started with our Facebook Live Q&A panel. We have April back. Good evening, April. April is a psychic, a medium. She does counseling services. If anybody's interested, you can touch base with her one-on-one and get some counseling, and quite a few modalities of healing under her belt. And then we have Patricia here, who is part of our core group of meditators. And I don't know what Hugh did. He was online, but he disconnected somehow. And then we have Sri Lakshmi with us. So grateful that she's always giving her divine presence to our Facebook Live Q&A. So grateful. Thank you so much, Sri Lakshmi. So let me get started. Patricia, did you have a question for April? Or I can ask a question. Did you want me to ask a question? Let me get started, and maybe that'll lead you to a question. So April, Dr. Joe has this monthly Dr. Joe Live, which was played last Thursday. And the first questioner asked, and I thought this would be a good question for our Facebook Live Q&A as well. Somebody asked, once we connect to the field, once we are connected to the divine, right? We did our meditation. Now we are getting connected to the divine. We are connected to infinite intelligence. So what more and why should we do anything more? Right? Wouldn't that intelligence direct us to do what we need to do, right? And so that's the question this person asked. And I know I have an answer to what more should we do. Why would we have desires? And why would we want to do what we need to do? It goes back to what you talked about in your workshop as well, about the polarity and the almost like the descent of the divine into matter. But I'll let you get started on that if that's sufficient. Thank you.
Well, my first idea was that the divine is always expansive. It's always continuing, and that is the reason for us, and that's the reason for especially coming down here to Earth, is for expansion. So in a sense, in that state, it's a state where you are complete, but there's still this other part where you're never fully done. You're never fully done expanding. And it's you can think of it as like kind of like a circle. Matthias just explains it this way, that we start out from source, and then we are going on this journey basically to get back to source. But in order to do that, you have to experience every expression of source that you can, in every form and in every way. And that's why, one of the reasons why they say that you've had 100 or 1,000 lifetimes, because in each lifetime, you have experienced a different role, a different part of source, of the creator. So that was my first sense when you asked that question. But I can also understand and get that sensation that why do I have to do anything because I'm connected to the divine? And if you've ever been able to really grasp that feeling, that sensation, there is that sense of completeness. There is that sense of wholeness of I really don't need anything else. But then as Poonam was bringing up, here on this dimension, there is polarity and there's
I think April froze, right? I'm hoping she comes back. Will you give her a minute? And I'm tagging everyone, so just 1 second.
to the divine, but ultimately there's another level when you're really looking, when you're really getting back to the one. Oh,
So April, I think you froze the moment you talked about polarity. So you will have to repeat yourself what you meant after polarity.
I froze?
Mhm.
That's so weird. I don't ever freeze.
I mean, your video froze, so maybe that's
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
that's weird because I rarely freeze. So what I was saying about polarity is that here on the third dimension, there is polarity. There's always polarity. There's always that up and down, that black and white. So even if you are in that space of divine and consciousness and Christ consciousness and connected, there will still be things that happen. It's truly though that there's always another level. There's always another level of divinity. There's always another level of creation. So, but like I was saying, you can get into that space where you have complete peace and oneness and you don't feel like you need to do anything. I've had that before and it is very, very, I want to say peaceful, but it's this calming, this overwhelming sense of calm and inner peace and relaxation where you're just like, I don't need anything, right? But as a human here on earth, you will need things. You will need to drink water and you will need things. It's designed that way for experience. It's designed that way on purpose to gain experience. So hopefully I didn't freeze that time.
We heard everything. You're incredibly amazing. Thank you so much for the insights. So one of the things that we touched base on in the discussion I had and you had in your talk was this, that the divine, like what Dr. Joe says, we come from singularity, but as that singularity, as that infinite intelligence has descended into these billions of things, it has forgotten about itself. And actually, maybe in was it Lakshmi's discussion, one of the group meditation discussions, we were talking about Rupert Spira, talking about this analogy of Mary, which is source, Mary actually dreaming the dream of Jane, which is all of us. Mary is dreaming and she's dreaming of Jane in London, right? And that Jane in London is all of us, billions of forms. Mary is source. So that's what that singularity is actually to know of itself, to discover, like you said, right? It's on its own path to discover itself, right? Learn about itself. And the only way it can learn about itself is to forget itself. Right? And in forgetting itself, even we have forgotten our original nature.
Yeah, and that's what we call the veil.
Yes.
And there is very much a veil. I think that if our culture was different, there wouldn't be as much of a veil for most of us. Not all, but most of us. Some of us come in here, we're just not aware of the spiritual realm. They're not meant to be aware of the spiritual realm. They're meant to have a common everyday life, and they will never become overly spiritual, and that's okay. So, but for many of us, I think that if our culture was different, and which I think is changing now, and our children had different experiences and were able to freely express these things, that veil would not be so thick or so heavy. I do think that.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then Summer had actually, I don't remember that person's name. It's Aaron Apke or something. Like he may be a new age spiritual teacher. And he went into the whole, I don't know, I've heard some people say there are 20 dimensions. And then he was talking about there are 7 dimensions. So, and then he was equating each dimension to our chakra. Like the first dimension is like the lower center, right? The second dimension is by the navel. The third dimension is the 3D world that we live in. The fourth dimension is the more heart-centered we are, the more we live in the 4D realm, right? So there's that aspect as well, right, April, that we can move between the dimensions.
Well, we can move between dimensions, and the dimensions are, there is more than 7. There is numerous dimensions, but the ones that I know for sure are the 12 dimensions, and they are linked to the chakras. That is one way of looking at it. This is definitely a Kelly question. He would be able to go, well, both of them, they would be able to go to more in depth, but there are different dimensions, and each dimension gives you, basically the easiest way to explain it is a different point of view, or you gain a point of view that you didn't have before. So third dimension is a lot of the polarity. It's also the Trinity. A lot of it's the Trinity, where we have mom, dad, child. We have Father, Son, Holy Ghost. It's the Trinity. When you add a 4th dimension, then we are adding another view. So the another view in the 4th dimension is the view of oneness, which is the heart. So we're gaining another view in the 4th dimension, that we are all linked. We are all one. We are all essentially the same. So I agree with that person's theory, that there are many more dimensions. And there's more, I'm sure, that I'm not even aware of. The higher up you go, the more Christ consciousness you become, the more loving and kind, and oneness is the key concept in the higher dimension.
So that would be another incentive, right? That to move between, that I get to quantum jump between different dimensions. Like if I can ascend to that level of frequency, then I can jump. That experience is available. Like there are infinite possibilities, infinite potentials. So the consciousness is expressing itself through this form for each of your forms, but it has infinite possibilities of infinite potentials to experience through that one single form. The other part to this, April, what I feel, and I feel in my case, especially, and this person, Aaron Apke, also stressed on that one of the things about living here is that we are here to serve. Like that has to be that's almost like he made it like it's a universal law, like almost like the law of attraction is a universal law, right? Law of cause and effect is universal law. He almost said that in the impulse to serve, the more we have that impulse to serve, the more we are aligning ourselves to what consciousness wants to, maybe that's the way a consciousness wants to expand. But I found it very true. Like I've always I started off with this group in 2016 with, oh, let me post a few posts and, the excerpt from Eckhart. Let me do, share out Eckhart's video or something. But then, 2 or 3 years of doing that, I went, okay, what more can I do for this group, right? And it always has been this urge to do, what more can I do for everyone? And it's not just the group, like now the group meditators, like we become like a family. What more can I do for Patricia? What more can I do for Vidya? Like I'll be thinking, what more can I guide them? What more can I say that'll guide them, right? So you want to speak to that too? And then we'll go to Patricia. April, thank you.
Yeah, there seems to be this, trend or trait. I'm kind of chuckling inside because back like in the day, this would be like the reborn Christian, and they would run around and you got to be saved and tell you about God and you got to go to church. But it's really, they were just so excited. They were so excited and they felt so good and they wanted to share it and they wanted everybody else to feel what they're feeling, right? Oh, kind of funny, but I think that is a natural, a natural flow. Once you find peace and you find happiness and you find truth, then you naturally want to share it. You naturally want to give it. And then also, once you have healed yourself, worked on your stuff, and you've gained that state, that inner peace, then you do want to give it to somebody else. You want to show others the way. Now, everybody's not ready for the way, or maybe they're not, or will ever be ready, but I do think it's a natural desire. And I have found that, to be within myself. I've been doing the like one-on-one thing for a long time. Over 20 years, I've been doing the one-on-one, and I'm now at a point where I want to heal more at a time, more souls at a time. I don't want to heal just one at a time. So that's my progression, is I'm still helping individuals and I still am fully open to that. If you need to talk, you can find me on Messenger, but I am to the point where consciousness or creators is like, okay, time for more, time for, yeah. So I do think it's a natural thing, because when you have suffered and then you get to that space where you actually have some peace and some happiness, and you see somebody else suffering or you see somebody else in need, then your heart space, your love opens up and you want to give it to somebody else. And that's exactly the whole point of creation, is to love others and share it.
Incredible. Thank you so much, April. So grateful. Sri Lakshmi said that's her weakness as well, to keep helping. Hugh is going to be back. Or do you have a question, Hugh?
Yes, I just want to tell you, naturally, somewhere along the line, a sort of expectation builds up, and that leads to some sort of strain at later point. That is what I wanted to get clarified. Although you do because of your natural impulsive help, at certain point of time, there is some expectation without knowing.
Expectation from the other, Sri Lakshmi?
Others that, yes, that they would take you into confidence and have some sort of reverence or something like that.
So that's boundaries.
Yes.
That's where boundaries come in.
Mm.
And then I think, you know, like there's many, so in this realm of like what we're doing, for example, I'll just use that as an example. Like you have some people out there who are being life coaches. You have some people out there who are being, you know, mentors, and they're having one-on-ones and their one-on-one monthly group meeting and all of that kind of stuff. But then you have people that are like Eckhart and like Joe Dispenza. They do not do one-on-ones. They don't do that. They have workshops. They have online talks and workshops. So that's their boundary. That is their way of saying, I'm going to help you. I'm going to give you everything I have, but here's my limit.
I think they go beyond that one-on-one. They can no longer sustain the one-on-one, right? It doesn't become like their time is much more useful in handling 1,800 people or a like the Dr. Joe Live. I'm sure thousands of people listen. He has like millions of followers. About they may be like 100,000, 200,000 people that listen to Dr. Joe Live. So. Which is a paid subscription. That's a monthly paid subscription. I'm not talking about free. It's a monthly paid subscription. So you had a question. Thank you so much, Sri Lakshmi, for your input as well. Did you have a question, Hugh? You're on mute, I think. I cannot hear you.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to say sometimes we land in troubles because of that natural impulse. That is what I was trying to get clarification. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sri Lakshmi. I think more than boundaries, it's more like once you detect that you are being taken advantage of, then what Eckhart calls a high quality no, you can always have that high quality no from presence, like not disconnect from them. My thing that I've learned from, I'm waiting for you to get back on audio. So my thing from Byron Katie, listening to her and the way she expresses herself, she always keeps herself connected to the other. So you may say, no, this time, if somebody is asking you for financial assistance, right, Sri Lakshmi, I'm just giving an example. And you don't feel that this time, you may have helped them 2 times in the past, but this time you don't feel like it's the right time for you to help them. Maybe you'll help a third person, but you don't want to help the same person, right? So you can always say, no, I mean, I would love to be helpful to you, but not at this time. I have some personal commitments, and be at peace once you say that. Don't feel guilt.
Yeah.
Because the moment the guilt starts, the ego has started its drama, right?
Yes.
So the ego is raising its head and using that instance to kind of make you get back into the lower centers, right? So it's the ego has started saying,
yes, huge ego.
right. So you can just say with love, you can say, no, I'm sorry, not, I mean, so many people I have, I'm very known to give to charitable organizations like SPCA, like the animal cruelty, this, that, and everything, police, firemen. But recently I said, no, I'm not going to, I'm going to give to friends, right? Like Francesca had something, so I had to subscribe to some boats and I had to give. Louise had something going on with her kids. I'd much rather give to them than to give to other people, right? That whom I don't know. So
Mm.
I just say, no, I'm sorry, I cannot at this time. Hugh, are you back on audio?
Yeah, I'm
Can
back.
can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sri Lakshmi.
No, what April was talking about, wanting to share. I mean, when I started going through that book and then I got all excited having them light bulb moments, the first thing you want to do is go share it with somebody, but they're not receptive, so you start pushing it back and forth and they're not seeing what you're seeing, and that's been it's been an issue, not an issue, but it's been like a sort of, I can't even say a disappointment, frustrating maybe, and then eventually, when I like work with like say a friend in need, they'll tend to start grasping after a while, but it's like exhausting, when you go do the one-on-one with somebody, because it's like you're putting yourself in their shoes, and so it can be draining. But finally it seems like they eventually start we start getting on the same page, but it takes like forever, it's just tiring. Now I can see why is that what you mean by you want to just do 2 at a time because you're putting that amount of energy in? Or
No, I've been doing this for 22 years where I do one-on-one. Either it's through my job or it's through, like, I'm a psychic medium, or it's through energy healing, or even just counseling on the side. And that's okay. I still love that and I still do that, but there's been this desire. I've had this call, this push, this desire, like, to reach more people at once. And I think that, that goal, when that goal is obtained, then I probably would stop doing the one-on-one. So it's not because I'm frustrated, like, necessarily with the one-on-one. It's just, it's really more of a sensation of feeling like I should be doing more. But to address your comments, I've been exactly where you are with helping other people. And for the one thing, so there's a couple of things. One is, this stuff is a lot to digest, especially considering our conditioning and our patterns and all the things we've been taught and our beliefs. So a lot of times, really what it is people can only digest so much at a time.
yeah.
They can only accept so much at a time. So a lot of times we have to just introduce the ideas at first. And I will do that with clients. I'll introduce this idea and I'll tell them, I'm just going to leave it right here because I want you to kind of digest that. And really what I want it to do is I want it to get into their system, and I want their body, their soul to open up to the idea. And then you give them some time and they actually consider it. And they're like, So that's one thing. And then, and I have been in the space where I just really want somebody to get it. And especially like some of my daughters, really want them to get it. And, being their mom, it's like, well, you picked me as your mom. You knew I was going to be this. Like, come on, why am I dragging you on this? So I really want them to get it. But then we have to do what the creator does. And you have to accept that they are wherever they are at. And that's okay where they're at. And they may never get on this path. And that's okay too.
My daughter, I mentioned some of the things and she says, Dad, we already done that in AA. I've already been through the 12 steps. That's the same thing, she says, right? But shockingly, she really, they actually teach a lot of good things in that 12-step program. I talked to Ken, that usually he's here a lot, and he actually goes around giving speeches to, he works with AA. It's like he's like doing it backwards, like not backwards, but he never went to it in the beginning. He's just going back as a speaker, and it was pretty informative, everything he was saying. So I guess it's just another parallel, I guess, of teaching, you know.
Yeah. So it's about acceptance is really the key of the person is where they are. That's where they are. That's okay. And sometimes we're not actually planting the tree or the plant. We're just planting the seed. And the seed may, I mean, how many people have you heard on Eckhart's talks or whatever, where they got his book and it sat on the shelf for years before they read it, right? So we're just planting the seed, and that's okay.
Yeah, they was I think what did Eckhart say? If you get mindful, you don't have to read the book. As long as you get mindful, you eventually get it.
I think he also says, thank you so much, April. He also says to you that a lot of people have asked this question, right? Eckhart, when I talk to my friends and relatives, they don't listen to you. When I talk about your teachings, they don't want to hear what it is about your teachings, right? So what Eckhart says is, the most teaching that you can do is through your presence power itself. The more you are present with your daughter, the more you're present with your family, the more you're present with your parents. That's all the teaching that is needed. So the focus has to be on the presence power. Now, because of your presence, somebody's going to say, Hugh, I see that there was this event that happened, like the store, you went to the grocery store. I noticed that when you were buying groceries, that person was very rude to you, but I didn't see you react at all, Hugh. How did you end up doing that? When they ask you a question, then is a time that there's an opening in them. That means they've opened up. When somebody is closed and somebody is in their victim identity and, oh, poor me, that has suffered so-and-so, and my horrible parents, and they're blaming the whole world, and they're blaming the government, they're blaming the president, they're blaming everybody, right? How are you going to get through all that layers of, you know, the layer over layer over layer over layer of stuff? Right?
Oh yeah.
So
That's happening for me right now.
So the best thing is to wait for them to ask you a question, and then you can answer, you can respond. And that answer also has to come from presence. It's not so much as you can just respond with any kind of response, right? Like if you are feeling disturbance, there's a disturbance in the force, don't respond because you'd say the wrong thing.
Well, I can't believe, because I've been hanging out with you guys for about 1.5 years. I've seen April went first, and I think it was Caesar and Kelly and all them. But I gotten to the point now, I mean, I'm talking about not react. I don't care what you say to me. I'm not reacting. I mean, I'm talking about deep reacting. I don't get like a butterfly, or I'm gonna, you know, just, I don't get nothing.
Awesome.
It's scary, you know. I mean, and it's scary in the sense that I just can't believe it can happen. But from being mindful every day, and now I've stepped it up to the meditation for the last 3 months, and Francesca actually connected with me and helped me out a little bit with that as well. You know, so I'm doing that every day. And I know I don't want to change the subject, but can I sort of ask a question about the meditation? Sure,
go ahead.
I thought I had everything under control, right? And so I figured, oh, Mr. Calm, Mr. Mindful, no reaction Jackson sitting here, right? I go to meditate for the first time. It was like, are you kidding me? It was like mind racing was unbelievable. And I thought I'd done left that way behind, right? So after 2 months, I've realized the the thoughts that when I go into the meditation, that they don't hang around, they only hang around for about 10 minutes. And it's usually I'm figuring stuff out. Is that like normal? I'm actually meditating and figuring things out, like I'm getting the solutions to them, you know, like it's just coming to me like nothing. Does that ever happen to you guys, or
Yeah, that's normal.
that's normal?
Yep.
Huh.
You're in the receptive state when you're meditating, you're in the receptive state for your higher self, your guides or source to come in and answer you. It also clears out the clutter and then allows the answer to flow.
Yeah, because I was doing a lot of engineering work and write code and do a lot of stuff, and I get stuck. And I go to bed, and I always wake up with the answer because I've been told, "Hey, why don't you just go home and get some sleep and come back tomorrow with the answer?" You know. But now it's like I can do it in a meditation. That's what's it's sort of crazy for me. I mean, I just don't understand what was going on here. You know. But then after that, then I resort to then I'll go ahead and turn the music on. But I got to do the thought thing first.
You keep working on it, and then you'll get to where you can maintain that steady state of stillness through the meditation. I mean, thoughts come through. There's never I mean, in the beginning, when you're getting into the meditation, the thoughts would come through because we've lived a beta brain activity, like a lot of thinking mind during the day, right? It's like the thoughts will, but then they subside as we train our mind. It'll subside, and then you get into that state where you're like connected to what I was talking about in the beginning, connected to the divine. So let me go to Patricia, who's been waiting. Thank you so much, you. Who's been waiting patiently. You want to talk about this, Patricia? Or any other question? Thank you.
Thank you. So the original question was, once we reach that connection with divine, why do we want to do more? And what came to me is the quote from some teacher, I don't remember who said it, that we are not human beings having divine experiences through the meditation stuff. We are divine experiences having a human experience. So if divine split, like April said, was this oneness that couldn't experience itself because, or now be aware, because it was one, it was everything, right? Absolutely everything and nothing. So once it's split into all the beings, now each being kind of has to find their way back to divine. And what also came to me in that moment is that, yes, we are on that way, either away from the oneness or on to the oneness, like Ram Dass was saying as well. But Mooji said something also in one of his talks. He brought something up that there was teachings about a student asking a teacher. It's like, what happens, you know, when will I get to God? When will he will let me into heaven? And the answer was, when everybody else gets it here too. And in that moment, I realized that that's where you want to share and give, because it's almost in that moment you realize that, yes, you are divine, but you are just that limited being in the form of a human that everybody has to go in. So all of us reach the same vibration of wholeness, and then we'll be whole as a one, and each one will be a whole too. So it's very hard, because I noticed that too. The minute I learned something and I feel it works, I want to share it because I want everybody else to experience that bliss, that wholeness, the healing. And this is when the serving comes, because how do we help others? By serving them. And in many ways, in whatever talents and gifts and specific ways we can do, we take care of this, but we can only do it, like you said, Poonam, through our presence. And then you become that instrument that the divine flows through you, and it tells you, your human form, what's needed in that moment. Sometimes it's the stillness and just silence. Sometimes it's the inspired action. Sometimes it's a smile. Sometimes it's just acknowledging the being into the human, another human being, or not treating them as a means to an end. So this will never, I don't think this can end, because there's so many forms and so many humans that you can just like say, okay, I'm God now, so I can stop. Because I think our form itself is limited. So here on earth, I don't know we can ever be that completely divine being and just like state, okay, I'm done, I'm good. Because if there is ultimately, there's no other, like Eckhart says, ultimately there's no other. You always meet yourself. And if I'm surrounded with so many different beings on a different level of consciousness or readiness for spirituality, so it means that there are also parts of me being reflected back that still need maybe healing. So certain parts I got aware of, I healed, but there's always, like April said, there's many levels, new things coming up, new layers upon layers. So it's an incredible adventure. I think you had it on your shirt from Dr. Joe, that you, the greatest adventure, was it like this? And that really, yes, we are actually that playful and creative spark of divinity in the human form. And it still amazes me how many more songs, how many new ways of expressing through art, through performing arts, through inventions. Like, it's incredible what an abandoned world it is, and it's not ending. So like, there's only certain amount of musical notes, let's say, and there's still composers composing new things. It's incredible. So you never know when the next Mozart will be born. I mean, you know, so many amazing individuals, and that's how divine just is being playful and creative. And so what we want to do is just bring everybody on that level. But not everybody's ready. But just being it, it's almost like when you behave or do something a certain way, you give permission to others to also get to in their way. You're putting that new possibility in the quantum field, right? And opening the new way so others can do that. So it's such a joyous and absolutely incredibly fulfilling way of living. So why would you ever want to stop? I mean, I know you're feeling peace, but that peace is what keeps you also going and creating. So it's not boring. It's not static. It's actually, it's incredible. You feel peace inside, but you are so active and full of energy, like giving and just having interactions and playfulness and creative with others. So I don't know if I answered the questions, but I don't seem like that would be like, I love that April wants to influence more people because she has such a gift. And I'm not saying it's a waste to do it one-on-one, but naturally you want to just expand and reach more people, be that influencer on a bigger scale, because and that's what it is all about. It's expensiveness, right? And Eckhart and Dr. Joe, why they talking to so many people. Also, they kind of, there's a synergy. Like even through the workshops, one person asked questions, even like Hugh was sharing right now, I had the similar experience. So he's getting an answer, but everybody else that's listening are also getting it. And new things are, being born by just interactions. Like one person just sitting, in the room meditating, I'm whole and complete, or I'm done, I don't need anything. That's cool for a second, but there's so many possibilities, and that can be only experienced when, I think, interacting with different forms, because this is where magic happens. Yes. So thank you.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Patricia. And actually, one of the pointers that you offered is something that Dr. Joe actually uses. The reason why we see so many testimonials, right? Like he was in that Dr. Joe live, he was talking about this young man, and I've posted his testimonial on our Facebook group. Young man who went through muscular dystrophy. So there was a woman, a mother, that asked about her 7-year-old and 9-year-old that has muscular dystrophy. So he uses the term footprints in consciousness. So as our soul learns something, right? As this young man learned how to undo his muscular dystrophy, like heal a genetic disorder, he is leaving footprints in consciousness for others with the same disease to follow and heal themselves. Right? And that's exactly what you were saying, is we are learning, but the reason, so many people are afraid of AI and what's going to happen with AI, but that actually leaves humans, exactly for what you were saying, is to do more creative art. Humans were meant to be creative, not be sitting at a desk and doing Excel spreadsheets and doing email or whatever humans do in corporate America right now, right? Like 80–90% of, we are not creative. Yeah, we may be creative in the marketing department or something where we are doing logos and we are doing, but even that is very controlled, right? Because somebody may say, oh no, you have to design it such, you're not given the creative freedom, go do whatever you want, right? You want the creative freedom of what does my spirit want to create, and let me create, kind of thing, right? So I know with, so that's one thing that everyone needs to know about, is that your soul is leaving, and this is something that I told my cousin Shivani, right? So she was telling me, you give so much, and I was like, no, my dad left that footprint in consciousness. He was a follower of Maharishi Mahesh, who Dr. Deepak Chopra also followed, right? And he was very spiritual. So even as a young kid, spirituality was imbued into me. Like that seed was, like April was saying, right? The seed was implanted. Yeah, the seed may have bloomed like 30 years later or 40 years later, but the seed was there, right? Somebody left a footprint in consciousness, and he was the epitome of loving kindness and compassion, my dad. And so, it kind of like moved into me even as a young child. I used to be very generous. I used to be very loving. The generosity has always been with me, but I know the generosity comes from him. So all of you are leaving footprints in consciousness as our soul learns. What do you have to say about that, April?
I think it's true. I think I agree. And I love the way Patricia said that and brought that around, wrapped that around to, you know, it was just amazing how you broke that down to where if we are all one and we are all the same and we're all on this journey, and then, you know, of course, there's more work to do. I mean, that was just like, yeah, exactly. But I believe in planting the seeds. I do believe that I think we're kind of doing it a little messily. Is that a word? So I think it needs to kind of be cleaned up, but we are becoming more caring. We are becoming more accepting, more loving. We are accepting different kinds of people, all different kinds of people. And I think that's also part of this, you know, creating this utopia, creating this loving nature, this loving energy. And you learn to accept wherever the people are, and you just plant that seed. But each generation, and like you said, sometimes it's in the same life. It may be 20 years later, it may be 30 years later, but you just have to plant the seed. You don't have to be attached to whether it grows or not. Your job is not to be attached to whether it grows.
Mhm.
It's just to plant it. And, you know, maybe it won't be with that person. It'll be with their grandchildren or something else. And I think that it is a natural thing for us to want to, once we reach this space, to want to give and to help. I think it's very natural. We do need the boundaries and stuff for it. So, but the AI thing, it's an interesting concept about it. And I watched, I know it's a concern, and I certainly don't know all the answers about it, but somebody else, it might have been Matthias that did that. He had a podcast about it. And he said, but don't you realize that we are the AI of bacteria? Bacteria started out, we are bacteria's AI, right? And when he said that, I just I had to sit back and stop for a minute. It was like, whoa, that's, that's an interesting concept. That's probably true. So I think, the idea that you have there is very true, that we really were not meant to be working all the time like this. That's not, it starts out with like Maslow's hierarchy where we had to survive. We've passed the point of having to survive. Not all of us. There are some of us that are still very poor and in some bad conditions, but most of us have reached the point to where we are not just trying to survive every day. And then we can be more creative. And I think too, because more of the world is not just surviving every day, just trying to get a roof over their head and trying to get food, that's also opening the door to consciousness growing. I think so. I think it's all intertwining and moving that way. I don't know if it will be completed in my lifetime, but I certainly think we are well on our way.
Incredibly amazing. Thank you so much, April, for sharing that. Do you, any last words? Did you want to ask something? You good?
I just want to say something to
Thank you.
April bringing up bacteria, because I I don't know where it was. I was watching something, or it was from medical medium, something that we are such incredible, we are an universe in itself for those bacteria that lives in us. And there's billions of them, and each one of them, you know, they're bad, good bacteria, service. And no matter if we are sitting here and talking on Zoom or working or whatever, they don't know what body does outside. They just live in the world and do whatever, like chemically, or, you know, they have to do to live and multiply, to fight the wars and whatever, not knowing that we are that living organism, that it's not really one. I'm not Patricia. I'm millions and billions of cells that each one has intelligence. It's just, it blows my mind how it's being put. Like the heart has intelligence, it beats itself, right? It's like, I'm not making it. It's there's cells and electric current that goes through and makes it happening. And they don't know who's Patricia. Who's Patricia? I was like, well, I'm inside Patricia. I'm like, whatever. So it's incredible when I was thinking about, it's like, OMG, what is that? That I'm a universe for those individual cells that are in me. And, you know, bacteria and stuff.
Yeah, so the difference is they don't know Patricia as in Patricia, you, the ego
Right.
identity person, but you do have your own energetic signature, or better way to put it, I guess, would be your own antenna to the divine. Each one of us does have now we have similar antennas, but
Yeah.
we have our own antenna to the divine.
The frequency, right?
Frequency.
The frequency that
Yeah.
we are
Mhm.
all like a radio receiver. And that's what
Yes.
Dr. Joe also tries to clear, that we're not getting all the noise and static. We are actually listening to clear messages from, you know, that quantum field. It's incredible. It's such a miracle in every possible way.
What was the name of that bridge the one that it became its own frequency and it wound up flipping and doing a 360? Yeah, does anybody recall that? There's a wind coming off the bay, and what would happen is the way they built the bridge, it became in the same frequency as the wind, and it basically, I mean, the cars were on it, it started shaking and actually did a 360 and went down.
Is that the same? Oh, it went down. Is that the same one that sings? There's one that sings.
Oh no, this doesn't sing no more.
Oh, okay. No.
No, I can look it up. I keep forgetting the name of it, but I did some work over the government because of frequency. I work on frequency drives, right? We had to put these call them Aegis rings, and what they would do, they do grounding. You know, we talk about grounding in here, but you'd be shocked on not every motor does it, you know, but certain ones will have or just be a certain bit out of balance, and they'll start creating their own frequency and destroy the whole, everything is tied to it. So you have to ground it, you know, but some deep stuff sort of, but everything has its own frequency. I do know that from a mechanical point. I mean, and even with based on when they scan areas at night and whatnot, everything has its own little signature, you know? It's like a fingerprint.
It kind of blows my mind still that even simple bumblebee, from the point of view, physical, it shouldn't be able to fly, right? And they can't figure it out. How is it possible that it's actually flying, and they're flying everywhere? So
Intention has a lot of power to it. But
so yeah, we will never stop. We will never stop, I don't think, until I don't know, ever, infinity, right?
One of the things that I heard one of the spiritual teachers say is all the universe is waiting for humans to make the choice or come to that knowingness of oneness. All the aliens, all the other entities in the millions of galaxies. Is that correct, April? You've heard of that too? But we have free will, and that's why so many humans don't make the choice, right? So,
Well, we've had the conditioning and the veil and all of just, like I've said before, it's one of the things that comes to my mind frequently is The Wizard of Oz, that movie. In that movie, the psychic there is portrayed as cheating. He looks at the picture behind her back. It's fate, right? So, but psychic ability is just reading energy. That's all it is. It's intuition. We all have it. It's just reading energy. But yet we have this heavy conditioning. So I really think that that's more it. And when we can remove that conditioning and remove that veil, and then we can really start to embrace that we are all one. We are all consciousness. We are all on a journey, and that our true worth as well. Your true worth has to be realized. These beings from the other dimensions, they already know this. They already know this. They are waiting for us. They're waiting for us to wake up or catch up, which we are slowly. And that is very true. The beings in the other dimensions, they are ahead of us in this aspect now. I think they're trying to help us. They can't intervene too much, but I think they do try to help us. But that's really why we haven't had like full-blown actual contact. They're in our face. You see them, is because we are not awake yet. We're not consciousness enough. But when we are, it'll be constant interaction with the other dimension.
incredibly amazing. Thank you so much. Eternally grateful to all of you for being here. As Nadia says, thank you for choosing your divinity over your humanity. Let's wrap up.
One more thing.
Hugh has one more thing. Go ahead, Hugh.
It's called the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. I put the link in the chat. Check it out when you get a chance.
Let me grab this link.
Yeah, grab the link, and then you'll see it'll give you a video of it, and you'll see the bridge.
And let me put it in the chat where the Facebook Live is going on. Okay, I put it in the Facebook Live where the Facebook Live is going on.
I know it's a little off topic, but I thought it'd be interesting to share.
We'll look at it. Hugh, thank you so much.
All right.
Many blessings, everyone. Much love. Have a wonderful
Awesome.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.